Welcome to Tile of Spain's new series, Ceramic Sessions. I'm Tile of Spain USA's technical consultant and your host, Ryan Fasan. I'm aiming to give you some short little nuggets that help level up your understanding and experience and comfortability, most importantly, incorporating ceramic in your projects moving forwards. Tile of Spain is the international brand representing all of Spanish manufacturers of ceramic tile. Supported by ASTER, the Ceramic Tile Manufacturers Association of Spain, and ETHEX, the Trade Commission of Spain. The Tile of Spain brand encompasses nearly 100 manufacturers throughout the country of Spain, but mostly centered around a small town called Castellón, just outside Valencia. Tile of Spain isn't a single company. What it is a collective identity that signals innovation, design-forward thinking, and a tradition of craftsmanship in ceramics. Now let's get to today's episode, Tile 101. So my day started today, as it normally does, stopping at one of my suppliers. I build houses here in Vancouver, and when I'm not doing education for Tile of Spain, what I'm doing is building homes. So I'm really talking to experience in this area. And what I really wanted to do with Tile 101 was demystify the selection experience of incorporating ceramics more in our projects. And the first thing we need to start with when we're thinking about selecting ceramics is picking the right body for our project that's going to perform and give all the benefits that ceramics can provide as a lifelong generational wealth building solution that is build once, buy once, and do it for a lifetime, or even multiple lifetimes, because that's what ceramics truly provide, but only if you're optimizing your selection of them and understanding as much about them as possible. And that's what Tile 101 is all about. It's taking all of the confusion and potential for overwhelm out of the equation. So let's get into tile selection. And the first thing I said we want to think about is what type of body we want to select, because that's going to be the most direct impact on tile's performance and therefore longevity in your project moving forward. The one question I get asked by almost everyone, whether it's an end user, a contractor, or a design professional, inevitably on one of my trips, someone will come up to me and they'll oftentimes be a little embarrassed because it's a very simple question. And the question is, what's the difference between porcelain and ceramic? And the answer is, one is a subcategory of the other. All porcelains are ceramic tile, but not all ceramics are porcelain. So ceramic is the overarching category. Porcelain is a type of ceramic tile, and the way we classify different types of ceramic tile is by water absorption or porosity. So various levels of porosity will define various types of bodies that we make, and therefore what types of areas they're applicable to. What I want to give you today is a simple tool set that's going to allow you to pick the right body of tile for every single area of your next project. Now, as I said, we make basically 3 types of ceramic bodies. There's a little bit more than that, but they're the ones you're generally going to see and the ones that apply to the broadest areas of your project. So the first category that we make, the first category is wall tile. That's everything with a porosity above 10%. Most of them are somewhere between 12 and 15% water absorption, and they come in a couple different styles. You'll also hear wall tile described as white body, like this one here, and red body, which I don't actually have an example of, but basically that just tells the color of the overall clay that's a part of the matrix within that body, the recipe. White clays come from certain regions of the world, and they've been preferred by a lot of consumers for a while. That's a long story, we'll get into it another time. But the important thing to know is that European clay, local European clay in Spain and Italy, and most of Western Europe is red because of a high iron content. That doesn't make it better or worse in any way, it's just different. And in most cases for wall tile, we're always going to be applying a glaze, so that body color is completely sealed off and we never see it once the tile is installed. Now, why do we make tile intentionally that's porous? Because the less porosity we have in a tile, the higher its performance characteristics are. So why on earth would we make a tile that's intentionally porous? Well, it's much, much lighter than a denser product. That means we can pack more of it into a container. That means we can add more value at a lower end user cost to a lot of these product lines. That's reason one. Reason two is that available porosity makes that tile easy to adhere to our backer units and our tile assembly with the most common and inexpensive mortars and adhesives. That's really important because we're specifically going to be using it on vertical surfaces or even overhead on ceilings for things like showers. The next and possibly most important reason why we select this style of product for walls is because that available porosity and lighter density of the material makes it much, much easier to move around site and to cut. So we go through blades and coring bits and things like that as an installer much less frequently when we're cutting through this material. And walls are where we have most of the things we have to cut around. Think about pipes, body jets and showers, diverter valves, simple outlets in your backsplash. All of these things we have to cut around in our tile installation. The denser the product is, the more demanding it is on our cutting apparatuses. It takes a lot longer, and therefore it's more expensive in terms of installation. So if you want to optimize your installation budget, don't bypass wall tile. Our next level of porosity that we make is anything from 3% porosity all the way down to 0.6% porosity. And that type of product we call stoneware or grès. That is the perfect specification for any interior floor that can be occasionally wet. It also sometimes, as it gets down towards the lower end of that porosity scale, can sometimes pass thermal shock, but usually not freeze-thaw applications. So in warmer or more moderate climates, sometimes it can even be used outside. And that style of body is probably the least common that you see. Generally, what we have today in our industry is ceramic wall body, either white or red body, and porcelain, our densest and highest performance product that we make with the lowest porosity. And a porcelain is just a ceramic tile with 0.5% water absorption or less. Now, a lot of manufacturers actually go even further than that because of the different production methods that we'll get into in a later video. A lot of manufacturers will make their porcelains at 1/10 of that porosity, 0.05%, or 0.1% is sort of the more common area for a lot of porcelains to be made at today. So that means it's almost like glass, which is 0% porosity. So those are kind of our three major bodies and where we want to use them. Although I didn't really tell you where we want to use porcelain. The rule of thumb is we can use anything with a lower porosity in any area that comes before it. So our wall tile is 10% and above porosity, and we can only use that on interior walls in wet or dry areas because it's a vertical surface and gravity is going to help water sheet down that surface. If we want to put it on floors in a wet area, we need that porosity down below 3%, all the way down to 0.6%, and that's our grès or stoneware. And then once we get below 0.5%, or our porcelain category, that's for our most demanding environments, like steam showers, shower bases, which are always saturated before we reutilize them. And so they are classified as submerged, and then also in submerged pools, water features, anything like that, or super, super heavy traffic, which is, again, something for a later video. So that's the kind of bodies of tile that we make and where we want to use them in our projects. I hope that this gave you a little bit of information that takes some of the guesswork and some of the potential for overwhelm when you're in a showroom like this out of the equation for you in your next project. It's been a pleasure sharing some knowledge with you and hopefully demystifying what is my favorite product to put into buildings today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can follow along this series. There's all sorts of resources at tileofspainusa.com, and you can follow us at Tile of Spain USA on all social channels.